Welcome back to a special episode of Beyond the Stars with Tim and Jeff.
Welcome to mysteries, laughing, shadows, twisted things. JeffMara and Tim Tactical, yes it's real, yes it's real.
Tim, it's great to have you back, and you've got a brand new documentary out on YouTube. What is it called and what is it about?
The ET messages that we received in Italy, Jeff. As you know, first of all, thank you so much for having that. I'm excited. For all of you who don't know this, Jeff and I do Beyond the Stars. There's a whole playlist. We do have an event, a ET contact event that we did in Italy. I was building an ancient, I could say ancient technology. It's from the 1900s. The Germans have created this type of technology in order to win the First World War and such, and receive messages. And we repurposed that technology in order to make contact with ET species. And we did. And we have a fantastic documentary that shows the whole process and all the messages. And I felt like we got to talk about that because there was so much emotional stuff that was happening. There were so many deep political and deeply social messages and messages about humanity and human life on the planet. So where else should we discuss that than Beyond the Stars?
It's fascinating that you mentioned that the technology is German. Is that secret technology or is it out somewhere that people can get access to?
So the Germans started, well, basically Europeans per se, in the 1900s, over 120 years ago. Europe was going into that phase of what is quantum physics, what is beyond the veil of existence. And European people at that time, first of all, Berlin had more electric cars back then, 1910, than they have right now, 100 years later. So the same happened with the consciousness-assisted technology that they were developing, because they were trying to access more information of the universe, trying to, of course, make that war related, because World War I happened and World War II happened, and we know how that story went. So the Germans were looking into that, and it was a variety of secret societies that were using that technology back then and were tinkering with it and playing with it. Tool Society and other societies that looked into ET contact, and then conspiracy might say, then World War I was instigated, and all these ideas about about quantum physics, for example, the idea that we are living in an ocean of energy, an infinite field that is alive and that is responding to us. These things were known in the 1910s. And then after World War I and after World War II, things kind of like change. And then, physics try to keep it silent. People who know about it will potentially find traces of it, but it's nothing that people on the street have ever heard, and people don't know about this technology at all. So yeah, we repurposed it. I built a prototype. We tested it. It worked fantastic. And then I set up an Also Happily Now event, contact event, scrolled through lists of people because I wanted the right people. And then we had 18 people chosen, and we flew into Italy. Doesn't matter where we wanted to go. We're going to do another event in Japan in just 2 weeks, which is going to be next level interesting, because then we're dealing with even different letters. So the device is using a pyramid technology. We have these things all around the planet as well. We have pyramids everywhere, and they've been used for communication as well. Lots of other, reasons why a pyramid makes sense and why it's not a tomb. But it can be used for communication purposes. So the thing is almost like a stock market ticker. It just gives out messages, we were very lucky because all the messages were English. All the messages were very, very significant. The first day when we made contact, I think already some of the most spectacular contacts we've ever had happened. And then the other days, we had team exercises, and it was at least as exciting and emotional for everyone who was in there, because some of the messages are far beyond the mystery.
What's fascinating is that a crop circle spontaneously manifested itself, or it was manifested by the ETs. I don't know. But,
Oh my gosh.
and you can see it
Yeah.
in the video.
Yes, yeah, we do have like a drone video and an animation of the whole crop circle. Yeah, this is unscripted, everyone. That was not at all planned. We also didn't arrange anything beforehand. We didn't know. We are following a certain protocol to make sure that we, connect to the right people. We have a list, of properties, how we want the frequency of the beings. We want friendly beings and so on. I want people to have a real good access to the ET world in a harmonious way. But yes, the freaking day, Jeff, the freaking day when we arrived and set foot on the land, uh, in that area, a huge crop circle overnight just appeared. It was gigantic, 7 football fields big, and it showed a very intricate design in the middle, which is a 7 pointed star, a polygon basically that has 7 corners. And now, crop circles have two things: attract two people in the world. One kind of people, hopefully everyone who's watching here, they say like, they will look at that and think like, okay, come on, there's an intricate geometry that just appeared overnight and it's large as 7 football fields. That is a message. And then you have people who look at that and say like, oh yeah, that's some 16-year-old guy who's, either spraying trains or he's doing these crop circles in the middle of the night. The special thing about this crop circle was that it's a very highly complicated polygon that was in the middle of it, and this polygon is the only and the first complex polygon that cannot be made by using a string or using a scissor, because you need a very high level of math in order to construct that type of polygon, because it is very, very rare and very exotic in its way. So you need high math to even construct that thing so it doesn't look like a potato. And it just appeared as huge as a house, and the first day, no one, we didn't expect that to happen. It was spectacular. And I sent it to some people who are experts on crop circles, and also run it through, ChatGPT, things that we do these days, right? And the messages came back. People were like, what the heck? This is amazing. And some of the people who interpreted it, they all came to the same sentence. It was almost ridiculous, because even ChatGPT sent me that very sentence, and I think I had it 3 times in my phone, and it was opening portals to other worlds. That was the message that everyone agreed upon that this crop circle meant. And in that very moment, when we realized that, we knew we were onto something huge.
One thing I got from watching your documentary is that contact with these ETs was an emotional thing for these people, at least some of them.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I mean, the beautiful thing about these events, the Auship Happily in Our Contact events, is that, I've done these things before. I've worked in the programs and so on. So we really go into like the diplomatic protocols. We go into exercises. We prepare people and make it as, as harmonious and as beautiful as people can get that. I mean, the reality is shifting right in front of our eyes anyway, it's happening for everyone on this planet. But how do you want to access this? There are different ways. You can jump into an ice plunge, and then you have to deal with that when you're in ice freezing cold water. Or you just, go slowly into it, or even like make it a nice, hot tub or something, and then enjoy that. So going into this type of ET reality is inevitable. We're all gonna head over into that reality. But the question is, do you want to shift happily? Do you want to shift happily? So that is something that we do. But there were so many emotional moments for people. We had that is it's these events almost like wear you out in a little bit, in a bit of a way, because it's not a holiday or something. It's a life-changing experience. And we had the main protagonist of the documentary, who's Lisa, loving soul, a beautiful soul, and she had like almost probably the deepest depth of initiation in that whole thing, because while we're doing the team exercise on day 3, the second contact moment, a being came from another galaxy, introduced itself and saying, I'm coming from a different galaxy. I'm coming all the way in order to deliver you a message. And the message was that her father was hospitalized, just came into the hospital, had a serious health issue. And Lisa was somewhere in the mountains in Italy, and she was freaking out. She didn't know how to handle that. She didn't have any service. She was just, handling that situation as and the being then said, like, it came all the way to also tell her that her dad's gonna survive, that her dad is gonna recover and survive this. And then she was on the phone with her sister, and her sister was calling her and was crying and was deeply terrified and telling her that her dad, had a health issue. Um, and Lisa took from that moment so much strength, and she said, like, I know he's gonna be fine. I can't tell you how I know that. A being from another galaxy just told me in an ET contact event. But it was like the message that she needed in that very moment. And weeks after the event, just recently, she reached out back to me. I think she posted it on one of my YouTube videos and said the being was right. That her dad was just coming out of the hospital, and he survived. He survived. It was the message of her that she needed in that moment. She would have received that phone call, would have been in Italy, completely isolated, 6,000 miles away from the US. And then, have no service, or wouldn't know how to contact her dad. That's a dramatic, drastic, disastrous situation to be in. And this being just came all the way to tell her, no, I just want you to know this is happening. Please keep your good faith. He will recover after some time. Uh, that was so special. And she said after that event, she told me, like, I want my story to be told because I want people to know that there is hope in the universe. There are beings who come, who reach out to us, who want to help us, who want to support us, who care for us. We just, got to read the messages.
You also had contact with a reptilian being. And it's interesting because most people, or at least a lot of them, think that reptilians are negative, but this one seemed to be benevolent.
Yeah, benevolent and indigenous. I think that is like the main news that we have to share here is we share this planet with an indigenous reptile species. Not only are humans not the only intelligent species on this planet, we also share the planet now with AI, which is a very intelligent species as well. But apparently, there is an indigenous Earth reptile species. And now think about this: the story that she she was a female that told the story she told us was 70 million years ago, a huge meteor would fly into the area of Yucatan, which is where the Mexican pyramids are today. It slammed into the earth, created this massive, massive, massive outburst of fire and heat and everything that we've heard about. You know, dinosaurs were roaming the earth at that time, and their origins come from that time. So they are a velociraptor species, which is a very specific type of dinosaur that is actually more related to birds. So they're kind of like a reptile species, but today's birds come directly relatives with them. And this meteor the story we've heard over and over, it would kill 8 out of 10 of all living beings. It was a very rough Earth shift that people experience, which is a good thing that we all subscribe to All Shift Happily Now, because we change things on the go here. But back then, consciousness and the universe was way more rough, way more brutal in a way, and it would kill 8 out of 10 of all living beings on planet Earth. 8 out of 10 of all living beings within the first few days. Why? Because the meteor would increase the global heat. And people think that the Earth would heat up for a whole day up to 600 degrees Celsius. That is around 300 degrees, 600 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 300 degrees Celsius. So it is like 10 times hotter than, the typical hot day in German summer. Huge heat waves over the whole day. Every land animal, especially huge dinosaurs, would die from that. Sharks who lived on that planet at that time as well survived. Why did they survive? Because they were fortunate enough to be in the ocean. Ocean is water, water isolates. Now, what did this particular reptile species do? Velociraptor species. They were small enough and intelligent enough. Apparently, scientists think, that this particular species was at least as smart as dogs. So, kind of intelligent beings, and they would survive because they found entrances into caves. So basically, some of their species, as small as they found these entrances. And what people should know about planet Earth, there are entrances inside of the mantle of the Earth that go pretty deep. The Earth actually has a crust, and beyond that crust, or beneath that crust, you have almost like a hexagonal type of cavern-like structure. Some of them are as big that you could put all the water of the oceans inside of that. Just one of these caverns, huge caverns. And they found entrances. And because the Earth was heating up to 600 degrees Fahrenheit, super hot, they had to go inside and deeper. And then they found habitable terrain. That was what they were telling us. Through this cataclysm, through this Earth shift, they basically found a new habitable terrain that was miles and miles underneath our feet inside of the Earth. And then they survived there. And now think about that. This particular species had 80 million years to evolve in consciousness. Humans from the little ape beings, the monkey beings that were their very, very first predecessors, up to the point that they're now using Apple Music and rant about USB sticks, that took them 7 million years. So 7 million years of human evolution versus this Earth indigenous reptile species coming from dinosaur age that had 80 million consecutive years of evolution down in the underground cities.
And Tim, have the governments of the world known about this indigenous species? And if so, what strategies did they use to keep it hidden from us?
Jeff, you're mentioning something that this is probably why we're doing the director's cut. When people go to the documentary, we kind of left that out because yes, there are groups on this planet who know that there is an indigenous reptile species living on planet Earth right now. Why is that important for them? Because they have more to say than humans. And that is very relevant. There is some unwritten rules in the universe that a lot of species all agree upon. There is no legal context that is, worldwide, but there are some unwritten rules that, most beings follow along in the universe. And one of them is when two intelligent species share the same home planet, in order to prevent any outbreaks of controversy and debate and so on, certain rules are in place. So when, for example, temporal rules, if the species is longer on the planet, it has more to say than the species who came after them. It makes sense. And since this species is here 10 times as long as any human ever, they have as much more to say than human governments and human legislations and even underground projects and so on. So I knew that this species exists. I know that people meet with them. They have, other species that they are meeting down there. She was telling us that they have, visitations, almost like people go there for holiday to other species. She was talking about the ant people. We do have, intelligent ant beings on this planet as well. For some people who are watching this right now, it's probably like, what is Tim is telling us? We have ant people, lizards and humans living on the same planet. Yes, we do have an ancient indigenous ant species that the Hopi Indians and many, many other sources around the world are talking about. And we do have remainings and survivors of the dinosaur age who are living there too. So, yes, certain groups on this planet know that they exist. There is diplomatic contact. She was confirming that because we were talking about how do you communicate. And she said, well, when the humans from these black covert projects are coming down here, they learn our reptile language, which I thought is like so interesting. And the reason she was explaining is because the human vocal cords can imitate some of the sounds that, a reptile would do. And she was saying, well, they can't do that. They reptiles don't have the same vocal strings in order to imitate human vowels. So what they would use is an AI translator that would then real time dub their voice so that it sounds like English, French, or whatever they want to put out there. So she was confirming that, and to my complete surprise, the being that we made contact with was not a random member of their species, but it was their leader. And it was a female leader too. She was the female leader of 80% of the whole indigenous reptile species. And if you think about that, if we'd be called by the French president that night, it would have less significance than this individual that thankfully reached out to us.
Tim, after people have watched nearly 100 episodes of you on Gaia and they've seen you talk so much about the ETs, they may not really know that you're actually a very spiritual man as well. What was your spiritual life like before you joined the governance sector, and how did it influence it?
Interesting question. Yeah, I became very spiritual, and I'm training people how to access spirituality and especially psychic skills. I think that is like my main métier, where I'm supporting people to how to access, from one reality into a better reality, how to utilize psionic powers and so on. I gotta be very honest. I've made quite a journey in self-reflection and self development. Because back in the days when I was with these advanced projects, for everyone who doesn't know me, I used to work in the field of COVID governance for 10 years. So basically, COVID programs that were looking into the ET reality. Those people who know about ETs but usually don't tell you if it's not me, um, that was my reality, and that was a tough reality. I'm formally trained in exit strategies, in extremist groups, and like anti-terrorism and all of that kind of stuff. So like the environment was just the life and the reality that I was experiencing was just not a nice reality. And the what I'm the reason why I'm teaching people and bringing a happier side of the universe closer to people is because it's my own journey too. So I'm aware that every time that I'm teaching that to someone and make them more happy with their reality and their universe, it is something that reflects back to my own universe. And so that's part of my healing story. Finding that the universe is a very loving and stable and secure place. If we want it to be that way, then it is. So that's my spiritual approach. I've healed a lot and I've developed a lot.
Would you feel that your event in Italy was more a spiritual event than ET contact?
All Shift Happily Now context events, they have a variety of things that I put into it. First of all, I wanted to be a family-friendly thing. Some people came with their moms, some people came with their dads. Initially, I wanted it, to have like, more friends and more lovers and couples, because I believe that, people who are friends and couples can work on their respective realities way better because they're doing that together. Now, something where I was mistaken is believing that everyone has their respective other. I was thinking, the first thing that a human would do in this world is finding a partner on a spiritual journey, and then meditating together, praying together, exploring consciousness together, and doing also happening now contact events together. But the reality that I've encountered is that almost everyone, there's millions of people on this planet, and potentially a lot of people in your community too, who are single because their reality doesn't fit and doesn't match other people's boring standard realities, if I may say it that way. And oftentimes it's very challenging for them to even find another person who's interested in exploring these topics. But there are millions of them. They're just very unconnected. So something that I personally see myself in is I'm a civilizatory trainer. I'm training the species. I'm training training parts of society to get together, to form a strong bond, to know that they're not alone, but there are beings on this planet, there are beings beyond the planet and outside of this reality who all care. They all care and they're all here, and we all want to uplift the reality and see the magic and the wonder and the awe of the universe all together. I can only imagine how many millions of people want to stand together on a hill in masses and just look into the stars and just feel like, what a freaking adventure and what an amazing wonder it is that we are all standing here alive and that we are conscious individuals and so on. But oftentimes, Earth, in the way that it's set up, in the way that media has been set up, also some frequency generators, we call that the installation. It's a malevolent kind of setup that makes Earth kind of detached from the wonder of the universe, and a lot of people just walk through their lives, especially normstream people out there who walk through their lives and they have no idea. They think that everything in the universe is a representation of what life on Earth is like, and it's like almost like kind of like getting them, getting through life, which is the wrong thing to do. Life is not to get through, as much as dancing is not about getting to the other side of the hallway. It's about something that we get to experience. It's about the raw but friendly and loving surprise and amaze that happens in these events. So if you call that spiritual, then yeah, it's a spiritual event too.
There was one woman in the documentary who talked about her abduction. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, that's another one of these fascinating stories that you're gonna see in the documentary on YouTube, on my channel, which is basically that she said she was abducted when she was 20, and she never forgot about that moment. It was on her mind and throughout her life for 25 years until she came to the All Happily Now Contact event. And the funny thing that I found pretty funny was that when she was talking about, she was very quick in revealing that in quite the beginning of the event too. She said that she believes she was abducted, or she was abducted, but she never, she was never able to fully grasp what actually happened and how to put that all together. And the word abducted is such a forceful and bad word, but what actually happened, and I only implied that in the documentary. When you're gonna watch it, you see that she was actually, she had the most phenomenal kiss of her lifetime. I mean, if that is an abduction, then I don't want to say sign me in, but that was amazing. That was an amazing story when she was telling that at the beginning. She said she got abducted. This blue being showed up in her apartment or wherever she was living. And she felt such a familiarity to that being. And for whatever reason, it came to the moment where they're both head to head and they shared this kiss. And she said, like, it was in the very moment when she was kissing that blue being, she felt the deepest rush of cosmic love that she's ever experienced, like the most intense crush, like every type of schoolgirl crush she would ever had, but intensified by a million times. And she was just like fall into this place of like being so deeply in love. And she has never forgotten that kiss over 25 years. She was thinking about it every single day. And I mean, that's a pretty good reference for a kiss, I gotta say. And apparently, when she was using the technology and using and applying the techniques, well, guess who showed up again talking to her? It was this blue being. And guess what? They're married. They are married. He was sending her a message through our device telling her, hey, we're married. And she was actually his wife that at one point decided to incarnate on planet Earth. So her actual body and her actual soul is still on that ship, but her consciousness is brought into a human embryo, grew up as a human, and is now roaming the planet. But there, he's like waiting for her for like 20, for 50 years. He's waiting. He's standing on that ship outside of planet Earth. Her body is still there. They're still married. She's going to come back at one moment when she leaves the human body. But she forgot. She never knew. She just felt this amazing freaking love coming all over her that she never forgot. And but she learned that very night that is her husband, and he's waiting for her to come back. That was like his way to send a voice message to her. That was so amazing. It was so amazing.
And Tim, it's fascinating because I've had a guest recently who's in kind of a similar situation.
Very, very common. Very, very common, Jeff. It's a very normal thing that, people, beings in the universe have favorites. They have certain realities where they just feel very good. She apparently, like that one kiss, opened her up to a level of degree of love and familiarity and feelings that she would have never experienced ever in ever ever ever. Um, Surprisingly, I don't even know if I should say that here, but she was also married on planet Earth. So she came with her husband, very loving soul, both of them, amazing, amazing beings. But such an interesting thought, at least I think, without judging at all. But the idea, the thought is so interesting that these beings are cosmically married to each other, but she's then going into planet Earth, and is married to someone else, but might come back. So there are so many realities that don't usually fit into the norm idea of how it should work as human relationships, right? I could only assume that a lot of couples out there, if someone is gonna tell them like, hey, I'm gonna go to a different country, I'm gonna marry someone, I'm coming back in a few years, and then we keep going. That might be an idea that is triggering for humans, but in reality, when we're talking about like this deep sense of like beings being meant for each other and being in love for each other, it doesn't really matter. And the experience in itself is what is real anyway. So yeah, I found that spectacular, and it's a very common thing. So people live as ETs, have a perfect life, but then they have like the feeling of, oh, I need to do something in the universe, but they don't want to lose that other life. Normally, the normal routine in the universe would be you go one incarnation after another until you change something. So a lot of ETs do this stuff. When I was, for example, with Linda Moulton Howe, who's a Emmy Award winning journalist, investigative journalist, who looked into my story, and my background, and she was like always telling me, if out of the blue, which was very interesting, she was like pulling my sleeve and saying, Tim, am I in a tube? Because at night I wake up and I think I'm in a tube. What does that mean? And I thought, you probably are in a tube, Linda, to be very honest. A lot of ETs out there are currently in tubes, but their consciousness is streamed into a human embryo, a human body, a hybrid body, a robot sometimes, in order to experience what it's like to be on Earth.
Why is it that reptilians like to listen to humans sing?
Yeah, you saw that in the documentary, because we did, when we had contact to the leader of that species, again, indigenous reptile species, white scales, which I found very interesting. Apparently, they have developed white scales, maybe because they live in the underground for 10 million years. There's a tendency that beings, develop lighter skin. Um, but yeah, I was asking her after we had this contact, because she was saying, we know, Tim, we know about All Shift Happily now. We know what you do. And I was like, this is amazing, because we already had another species 1 year earlier that was reaching out to us. And that time it wasn't a leader, it was just 7 people in the room that wanted to communicate with us. And they had very exotic realities. They were saying like they're floating through their realities. They don't really have bodies. It's more of like a plasma kind of body. It was very interesting too, but they were saying like, we know about All Shift Happily now. We want to shift happily with you. And they were very, very nice and sweet beings. And when I made a joke, they didn't get it, but they were so nice. And like, I said like, hey, if you guys want to come to Earth, I'm gonna serve cookies. And I made that as a joke, and they were like, "Oh, this is very nice, but we can't digest cookies because we don't have bodies." And I was like, "Oh, this is so neat." The reptile species, she was the leader, which is so significant politically. I personally, my life, I'm so happy. because it shows the significance of what we do here on the planet, you know. With all shift happening now, that becomes a soul movement all around the world. We're like bringing psychic waves in order to stabilize our reality. We want to up level this Earth planet, this society here. Let's freaking do that finally, you know. And you know, because, and I think we should get taxes for that, to be honest. But since we don't, you know, we're setting that all up from the ground and it's growing beautifully. But just having another species that has so much weight on the and importance for planet Earth that humans even need to go to them and ask them for, you know, their permission for certain things. That's how deeply involved they are with the planet herself. Um, I think that that made me feel so much, you know, and also especially at the end of the moment, because she was ranting sometimes about planet Earth, you know, and not planet Earth per se, because she's from planet Earth, but she was ranting about the human society as reptiles are, you know, have the tendency in their speech patterns. They're quite direct, which, you know, is that's cool, but it was fun and interesting to see because she was very direct. She was pretty much saying like uh, that she had no hope for human society at all. She was very realistic, you know. You sometimes meet ET beings, especially when I was back in the projects. You've heard me talk about being six, which is a very high, people would say high dimensional, but it's a high frequential being outside of time. You know, they look at planet Earth and human society and human evolution differently because they already see us as evolved beings. They see the divinity in us because they are divine. And they're like, it was freaking me out. It made me so mad back in the projects because again, I come from these projects where you know, every day was something on alert. There is never a moment where it's just like, hey, the world is peaceful and everything is nice. And this high frequential being was then just telling us like, the world is nice, everything is good, everything in divine timing. Just relax and enjoy the ride. And I was back then, I thought like, that's not the reality that most human beings are experiencing currently. There is like some type of gap that we need to close. We need to shift happily. And this particular species was very realistic. They were like, "Yeah, I think humans have. I think their society is crap, and you know, it's probably not gonna do well." So, but then again at one moment, we asked her, "Do you want us to do something for you?" And she said, like, "Yes, I would like to hear you sing because humans have vocal cords and they can make sounds, they can make vocal sounds. And apparently, reptiles don't have the vocal cords, so reptilians cannot sing naturally." So we were all shy. You see that in the documentary on YouTube. We were just humming and very shyly singing something. And it filled my heart in that very moment with so much love, you know? Like she was looking at us and she was like, "Ah, you tiny humans, you know, you have so much to learn, but this is adorable. Thank you so much for singing." And it makes me cry right now, but I'm tearing up when I'm thinking about that because it felt in my heart, it was such a there is a part of like a little bit of like a motherly love inside of that, but there was also some other type of love that it feels very familiar with my own heart, but I don't have a human word for that particular type of love. But it's almost like, you know, you look at a being, you know, like a baby giraffe that's just born and it's like all messy, all slimy and it's flopping around because it doesn't control its his or her legs. But you look at that creature and something within yourself is like thinking, oh my God, this is a wonder. This is going to develop in such an amazing expression of the universe. And that was like something that I felt in my heart, and it's very hard to put that into human words, because there are more words for loving your coffee machine, but I felt that very much. And up to that day, it's almost like I feel that too. Jeff, I feel that for the community. I feel that for people who are watching this right now. I feel that there's just something within me that's like that felt that very strongly too. Like, yeah, people like everyone in the universe does mistakes, but we are all, we are all good in good faith, and let's do that. Let's keep that going.
Tim, have you had to face any challenges or backlash with putting on events like these?
I gotta be very honest, these events are packed with ET species that finally see a chance to talk and to come through, and do things. And it's I gotta be honest, it is a lot. That's one of the reasons why whenever I'm putting these events on allshiphappily.now.com, everyone who's signing up, we go through these lists. You can't just you book yourself into that. You are being selected and invited to come into the space and do that, because energetically, reality wise, there's so much happening. People are having these epiphanies. There are beings speaking through that want to talk to one singular being because they're married with each other. Then there are other beings who want to speak because we're doing a global soul mission and uplifting the universe. Then there was another being that spoke through that was a liquid being. You're going to see that in the YouTube documentary, but all they wanted to do was like seeing, experiencing human laughter. So apparently, like in the very moment when we're doing these All Shift Happily Now events, we're opening up something, and it's almost like any game store around the US when they have new Pokemon cards, and suddenly masses of people run into the store. That's how it feels, and there were moments where things were a lot. There's one particular species, a frog species, Toctaborians. They are one of the origin. They think, well, they in their reality they're one of the originator species, so they see themselves as like the parents of humanity in a certain way. There are multiple species that individually and independently from each other say that too. The Greys, for example, say that they have seeded humanity. At least 5 other species say the same thing. And it's real in their reality field, but it's a very interesting constellation, and they wanted to speak to me about something, and they wanted to speak to me privately while I'm holding this whole event, and it was a lot of messages that came through. And for example, they at the beginning of the event they sent a message and said like, "Hey, please don't forget that we want, as a frog species, we want to talk to you after the event." And the funny thing was that at the end of the event, of course, I forgot, because I have to, host like the most spectacular journey for 20 people in that tent. So I completely forgot. And guess what jumped onto the desk, which is so rare, because where did that come from? A toad. Like a toad just jumped on and stared in my face, and it was like, "Oh yeah, you guys wanted to talk to us too." So all these reality bending effects, you're gonna see in the documentary too. We had like not only a crop circle appeared, not only did we talk to the reptile species, not only had we another species coming through from a galaxy that was helping one of the members to get along with her dad, not only had we a married person from another spaceship who was reaching down, a liquid being, and so much stuff going on. We also had UFOs showing up, so lights and orbs were showing up, and people were seeing that, and were like, for those people who've never experienced these things, that's like a very intense week of changing their reality field in one moment. So there are political things to take into consideration. I don't want to offend anyone. I don't want to offend, like those groups on the planet right now who know about ETs and who are in diplomatic contact. I do want to respect that, because I do respect, systems in a way. But people need to make contact and need to be free, and apparently gigantic mass of the universe agrees with that, and knows about all Shift Happily Now. She was saying that too. She was, for example, saying she has no real hope in humanity. She also said, by the way, that human buildings and human designs and human art is completely crap. I mean, for a species that has, a lot more time and a lot more well-aligned focus on making things nice, human society here and there is needs a bit of polishment, that's for sure. But she was saying she personally and their species, they're joining into our All Shift Happily Now meditation. We've done one with you, Jeff, on your channel, thankfully. So there are beings from other dimensions who join into our call to change the reality, so that at one point we all can realize we are expressions of the same life form. We're not here to fight with each other. We're here to experience life together. And yes, there will be mistakes, and yes, there will be confrontations where we need to find harmony together. That's part of a dualistic universe experience. But ultimately, it's the same life form. We are all, part of one body, like blood cells in a universal body. And we have to make it happen that this universal body is healthy.
Tim, what's the name of your YouTube channel?
Tim Tactical. I'm very likely gonna put a post or something under the video. It's right now, everyone. When you're watching this video on my channel, we have the full documentary. You're gonna see the pictures. You're gonna see the emotions. You're gonna have the whole experience as a remote experience, and it's deeply fascinating. So after this video, click over and watch some of the stuff. Also, Jeff and we are doing Beyond the Stars together. This was a special episode. There are much more on his channel, in his playlist. Go and visit them too if you like to. And also, if you like to, put a comment here on the video, because I think Jeff and we should do another 3rd season of Beyond the Stars. I feel like people would love that.
Tim, thanks for coming back, and I'll see you in season 3.
Thank you so much, and happy shifting, everyone.
Welcome to Mysteries, Laughing Shadows, Twisted Things. JeffMara and Tim Tactical, yes it's real, yes it's real.